I want to make this video because a lot of people believe that you have to be some type of powerful being or a powerful spiritual entity in order to really attain spiritual enlightenment, right? So one of the things that you have to understand that is very imperative upon your spiritual journey is how your brain and how your mind works through photons and through rays of your eyes, right? Because I'm going to give you guys direct instructions on how to enlighten yourself. You have to bear witness to a truth, right? And bear witness to a truth means that someone tells you a lie, but you can see otherwise. Doesn't necessarily mean that someone telling you the truth and you're bearing witness to that truth. No. What bear witness to a truth could mean that someone tells you a lie and you can see otherwise. Now, one of the biggest lies a lot of us have been told since we were born is that if you stare at the sun, you will go blind. That is one of the biggest lies and most popular misconceptions, because they don't want you to stare at the sun. They don't want you to unlock these chemicals that's inside of your brain that corresponds with the pineal gland. They don't want you to do this. Now, the pineal gland is one of the most mysterious things in the entire body. It's one of the most mysterious organs. Scientists haven't figured out what it does. The only link that the pineal gland has in previous history is that it caused for people to have amphibian-like skin, But if you study ancient times, you look over in ancient Canada, you look over in ancient Egypt, you will see that the pineal gland actually is an organ that pertains to the metaphysical instruments and the metaphysical instruction that you receive from the divine cosmos, right? That's the only way to communicate to the universe is through the pineal gland. That's the main focus of all of your knowledge, is to understand how your pineal gland works. It's to understand how the pineal gland works and how to decalcify and activate the pineal gland, right? So this has a lot to do with why they don't want you to stare at the sun. And what I mean by stare at the sun, I mean not stare at the sun while it's setting, where it's easy to stare at the sun and things of that nature. No. You are to stare at the sun while it's highest in the sky. Stare at the sun when it's the highest in the sky. You could do this by throwing on shades. If you put on a pair of shades and you looked at the sun while it's high up in the sky, your eyes will start to correspond with the photons that's hitting your direct eyeball or your eyeballs, and it's hitting the retina. The retina, which sits behind the optical nerves of the eye, right? So you have optical isomers in something what scientists call optical isomers. These optical isomers, they correspond with how your body releases a chemical known as rhodopsin. Rhodopsin is responsible for how you're able to visualize things in the dark and things of that nature. So scientifically, the brightest thing to ever be discovered is in the dark. This is scientifically. So this is why darkness is truthfully blackness. If you took a black piece of paper and you put it in front of a jet black piece of paper, the black piece of paper is going to seem lighter than the jet black piece of paper. Two different blacknesses. One is black, one is brighter than the other. And if you took a super jet black paper and put it behind the jet black paper, the jet black paper is going to seem bright. That is one example or one way to look at it, right? And light travels. Light travels at 186,000 miles a second, right? So the light inside of your eyes, or the light inside of the light that is being uploaded through your iris, it corresponds with the center of your brain, and it penetrates the darkness that's inside of your brain, which is housed by the pineal gland. The pineal gland is an organ that houses a substance that scientists call ovalbumin. Ovalbumin is pretty much the outer layer of your embryo sac when you was a child. So when you was a child, your embryos was connected to the upper layer the upper roof of your mouth. Your embryos, this is upon the first week of you being conceived. This is even before your heartbeat. So the embryos of your egg was connected to the top part of your mouth, right? Just like your umbilical cord was connected to your placenta, to the placenta of the egg. So over time, as your mouth or your jawbone strengthen, as your carbon skeleton your carbon skeleton molecules start to come together and your skeleton starts to strengthen itself, your jawbones end up closing your mouth, and it snaps, or you bite off the embryos and disconnect it from the mouth, right? So for instance, you're in a womb and you're like, let's say that this stick right here was the connection of the embryos. When upon you being a week old inside of your mother's body and being conceived, the connection of the embryo circled your entire body and ended at the roof of your mouth. So you was in your mom's womb like this. And over time, as your jawbone strengthened, your mouth simultaneously and slowly started to close. So over time, let's say the 15th day, your mouth starts to strengthen and your mouth snaps this connection. So 10th day, 9th day, 8th day, 7th day, 6th day, 5th day, 4th day, and so on until this connection actually snaps. And what it does is it left the pineal gland balled up in the center of your brain. This connection that was connected to your mouth, it left the pineal gland balled up in the center of your brain, right here in the center of. So that connection through the mouth, it connected through the roof of the mouth, went all the way up to the center of the brain, right? And this is why when you read the Bible and it talks about the holy manna which fell from the sky, that holy manna is a manna that leaks from the roof of the mouth once the pineal gland is stimulated, and it causes the body not to have to eat, drink, shit, or piss. And there's an individual by the name of Prahlad Johnny who hasn't eat, drunk, shit, or piss anything within the past 60 years. And you can look him up. But the pineal gland has DNA through what scientists call nucleotides. Nucleotides which carry genetics through polymers. They call them polymers. Biologists call them polymers. Polymers disperse throughout the body and they start to formulate inside of your blood, and they release different forms of DNA which have different types of information. Right, this information which corresponds with all the light that's inside of your eyes, right? Which once it's directly to the brain. Now there's a substance or a chemical by the name of melatonin. Now melatonin connects with these nucleotides or this information that's inside of the DNA, and it starts to stimulate the brain once the brain realizes a certain truth that was considered to be an immortal lie, right? An immortal lie, which is like the example I gave, which is if you look at the sun, you will go blind. I consider that an immortal lie because all of us, most of humanity, most of us in here on this earth, we was taught not to look at the sun because it will blind you, right? That's a spiritual thing, right? That's something they taught you not to do since the very beginning, or since you could remember as a child, right? But in truthful all actuality, our ancestors worshiped the sun. They knew that the sun was the creator and divine utmost of the entire cosmos. Everything circled and navigated around Earth, which is the manufacturer of the most futile carbon element or carbon atom in the entire universe. Earth is the number one spot in the entire universe, and us as human beings, we could bear witness to that because we have not witnessed catastrophe. Earth is still here. We're all still here. Earth is still beating, you know. So we have not witnessed any form of catastrophe. So when you look at the sun, which is what our ancestors worship as the all-round center being, or the all-round center thing of the entire cosmos, it's the all-around, everything on Earth is navigated by the sun itself. And if you study the Earth and how the Earth's tilt, and you look at the Earth's obliquity, which takes 26,000 years to make one rotational spin, and you calculate the different location and correspondence, or the different locations and coordinates of the things like the pyramids and the Bermuda Triangle and the Dragon's Triangle and things of that nature, if you look at these pinpoints, you will see that there's different monuments that pertain to how the sun navigated around the Earth, or how the Earth navigated itself around the sun. So the sun itself affects all things. It affects the Earth's core, it affects the Earth's gravity, it affects all things. Now, in 2017, the moon itself turned upside down. If you looked at the moon has great craters on it, right? I'm going to teach you guys step by step on how to unlock and enlighten yourself and understanding your telepathic abilities, right? So if you looked at the moon, there's great craters on the moon, right? There's gray shadings on the moon. There's little gray shadings on the moon, you know. I don't recommend that people Google how the moon looks and things of that nature. No, you can go out on a full moon and see it yourself, because those pictures that are on Google and things of that, they're digitally automated, so they're screwed with. You know, a lot of people screw with how the moon looks and things of that nature to make it look a certain way. But if you go out on a full moon, you will see that there are gray shadings on the moon, and one side of the moon is brighter, or one side of the moon is darker than the other side of the moon. It kind of looks like the yin and yang sign. Now now that sign makes a shape, right? And this shape is similar to the number 9. Right? So, or it's similar to the number 6 as of August 2017. But before that, it was similar to the number 9. The reason why is because those gray shadings are Africa projected, is the shape of Africa projected onto the moon through eons and eons of photonic projection, right? Just like the sky is blue because the color of the ocean is projected from the sunlight bouncing off of the earth, making the sky blue. The projection, that sunlight that bounces off of that sunlight has bounced off of Africa and entered onto the moon over billions and billions of years, and it has etched itself onto the very surface of the moon. So it makes a shape, right? So Africa itself is projected, or Africa is on the moon. So as of 2017, Africa being in the shape of the number 9, if you looked up Africa or Google a picture of Africa, you will see that it's in the shape of the number 9. Africa being in the shape of the number 9 has shifted or twisted upside down, right? It has turned into the number 6, or downside up, or however you want to look at it. It has turned it to the number 6. The reason why is because the number 6 is the number of life, right? The number 9 is the number of birth, and the number 6 is the number of life. The reason why is because of the 6 carbon atoms, or the 6 atoms that's inside of a carbon skeleton, which is pretty much stardust. The carbon atom is stardust. There are 6 atoms that's always inside of the carbon atom. The carbon atom has the ability to connect itself with 6 atoms and create a skeleton chain link at any given time. So the number 6 itself made a symbol. If you looked up information on Google about the moon itself has been pushed 30% closer as of 2017. This is because of planet Nibiru. Planet Nibiru, which can only be calculated through mathematics and binary coding of its specific location, right? It's a giant cataclysm, a giant planet that has been bouncing around what scientists call the Kuiper belt. It bounces around the Kuiper belt. And the Kuiper belt is responsible for the Earth's, every planet's moon. Every planet's moon has come from the Kuiper Belt. You know, the Kuiper Belt, which sits on the very outskirts of Neptune, right before you get to Pluto. There's just giant chunks of asteroids that are just sitting out there, and there's huge asteroids that end up being gravitationally pulled by other planets, and these moons starts to form. So the moon itself has been pushed 30% closer by Nibiru, which is responsible for knocking Pluto off of its axis, which now we have 8 planets instead of 9. But it knocks Pluto off of its axis, and Pluto it knocked Pluto off of its axis, and Pluto is now gravitationally pulling, which is what a planet known as the 10th planet, what scientists call planet Aries, which was discovered in 2006. Planet Aries itself is bigger than Pluto, but it was discovered after Pluto. Pluto was discovered in 1930. Planet Aries was not discovered until 2006. Now, this is the movement of the cosmos unlocking DNA on the planet Earth, right? So the moon turned upside down, and it has been pushed 30% closer so that we can see the symbol of life on the moon itself, which is the symbol of the 6. The number 6 on the moon, through the gray shadings or the gray areas on the moon, you will see that symbol. You will see Africa turned upside down. Right? And why is it important to bear witness to that symbol? Because ancient African wisdom suggests that there will be a holy Messiah, or there will be someone who will come along and change the entire earth at the ending of an age. Every 6,000 years, this person comes along and changes the entire earth every 6,000 years. You have different names for them. You have Anu, you have Shu, you have Amen, you have Muhammad. You have different names for these beings that came during an age, right? This age which has just ended as the moon passed in front of the sun, which was August 21st of 2017, right? How do we know that is the very before I get into that, but the moon itself, once we bear witness to this truth, we have to, and we're able to look at the sun, we're able to correspond what scientists, or not what scientists, but what religion, specifically Christianity, teaches as the blood moon, which symbolizes the ending of a new age, right? So back to the staring at the moon. If you go and throw on a pair of shades and you looked at the moon, and you go and wear a pair of shades and you looked up at the sun, you will see that the sun there will start to be a circle inside of the sun, right? It's going to make out a different color. It's going to start to formulate or conjure up in the center of the sun, and it's going to make the sun look like an eye, like there's a circle inside of a circle, right? So this is you downloading all the information of the entire cosmos. All it takes is one glance at the sun, and you have downloaded or uploaded all of the information inside of the entire cosmos. All you have to do is just stare at the sun, just glance at it, just like that. And you will have downloaded, but you can't comprehend it because you have not borne witness to a truth. And how do you bear witness to this truth? You bear witness to this truth by understanding that you have been lied to about this truth, right? And that lie is that if you stare at the sun, you will go blind. So you will have to literally train yourself. First, start out with shades. Start out with wearing a pair of shades and going outside and looking up at the sun. Right, this is how you unlock the al-Kebunaki melatonin that's inside of your brain, which corresponds with the allokinetic or telekinetic powers that's inside of your brain, right? So when you throw on a pair of shades, this for people who aren't trained to look at the sun yet. If you want to do this right away, you can just throw. If you want to do this right away, you can just throw on a pair of shades and go outside and look at the sun. When you go outside and look at the sun, when it's highest up in the sky, that's anywhere between 1 p.m. to 12 o'clock to 1:30 p.m. That's when the sun is highest up in the sky. You have to do it when it's highest up in the sky, because the sun is releasing most of the information through its corona, what scientists call the corona. It's releasing vast amounts of information at this point in time when it's highest up in the Earth's atmosphere. So When you look up and when you throw on the shades and you look up at the sun will, and if you wore shades and you looked up at the sun, you will see that the sun will make a different color. That shape is gonna, that color is gonna make the sun look like an eye. So that is where you have borne witness to an eye. So let's say you take off those shades and once you train yourself to look at the sun, that circle that's inside the sun is going to make a color, and that color is going to be blue, right? It's going to be the color of blue, the color blue. So and this is how you bear witness to the blood moon. This is how you bear witness to the ending of age, right? Because we all see that the sun and the moon is out at the same time, but we don't necessarily know what that means. We haven't comprehended how to calculate the ending of an age. And a lot of us have been seeing the sun and the moon out at the same time, in the middle of the day. It'll be like 12 or 1 o'clock and you'll see the moon out with the sun. And this is because the universe has pushed the moon 30% closer so that you can bear witness to not only the symbol, but its actual color of the moon, or the blood moon itself, by looking at the sun. Once you stare at the sun for X amount of minutes or X amount of seconds, you are to locate the moon and then look at the moon, and the moon itself is going to make the color red. And now what's interesting about that is that the color red is a pure color. No two colors can come together and make that. So what you're looking at is the one truth of what scientists call angstroms. These angstroms make up colors inside of your eyes, and they start to correspond with how your body releases different types of how your brain releases different types of chemicals. So when you see the sun and the moon out at the same time, you are to look at the sun, locate the moon, and then look at the sun for 2 or 3 minutes, locate the moon, and then look over at the moon. And you will see that the moon itself will be red. It's going to be bloody, right? This is when the sun and the moon is out at the same time. This is the blood moon. So the reason why that's important, because it reveals the truth, right? If you stared at the sun for, let's say, 10, 15 seconds, right, and you looked away and you started to blink your eyes rapidly like this, you'll still be able to see the light of the sun, right? And wherever that light is going in direction, you're to turn and look at it, and be able to correspond. And now what this does is unlock the al-Kebunaki melatonin that's inside of the pineal gland, and the pineal gland stimulates the brain. It releases that DNA that was connected to the mouth that you had just pent up and wasn't able to unlock because you haven't been staring at the sun, which you have been taught not to do. So once you release this DNA, you will then start to go through things. I had people tell me that they went outside of their house and they just got naked and went outside of their house and they just looked around and I had people tell me that they seen different types of entities and different types of places and different locations without even moving. There's a different experience for everyone, but you have to bear witness to this truth by realizing that you can stare at the sun for longer than what you have been taught. And that is the lie. That once you understand and comprehend that lie, then you're able to propel and excel your knowledge and your comprehension of all of the divine cosmos. So and the reason why it's very important to understand how the sun and the moon works is because dates are very important. For instance, August 21st, 2017 was the last total solar eclipse. It was the first total solar eclipse of the century. The number one, right? You have the number one. Right, and this is why scientists and computer engineers they use binary coding to understand certain things, right? So after that, the next total solar eclipse of the century hit. It hit South America of I believe it was July 8th of 2019, right? And if you calculate the dates exactly, the date from the August 21st to July 8th of August 21st, 2017 to July 8th of 2019, if you calculate how the distance between those 2 days is approximately 1 year, 10 months, and 11 days, right? That's 11011. This is binary coding. This is how we navigate the entire cosmos and learn where Planet Nibiru is and how to navigate Planet Nibiru so that it can unlock different types of information upon the earth through the consciousness, right? The consciousness is the most important thing, because if you're not conscious enough of your enlightenment, you won't be able to comprehend it, and it'll pass right by you, right? Once you comprehend that you have been lied to by staring at the sun for longer and never going blind, once you're able to comprehend that infrastructure of knowledge, then you're able to build on it, right? What else could I do that I have been lied about, What else can I do that has been lied to me, right? And this is the this is what's known as the Al-Kebunaki, right? The Al-Kebunaki was founded by the Anunnaki and the Incas. If you look at over at the Andes and the Dogons, right? So the Al-Kebunaki is 2 words put together. It's Anunnaki and Al-Kebulan, which is the original name of Africa, put together makes the Al-Kebunaki. So this is the telepathic, allokinetic abilities that you have to, and when I say telepathic, it's something that you have to understand, right? It's not necessarily me. I'm going to point my hand at an object and be able to move it, and it doesn't necessarily mean that I'm going to be able to read exactly what's on somebody else's mind, right? Whatever gift that you have mentally, you're able to comprehend that. You're able to comprehend how that gift works, and if it deals with reality, that is what makes it real, right? Meaning that if I wanted to move an object in front of me and I'm just looking at it, and the next thing I know, the wind comes along and blows this object, did I just move the object with my brain, or did the wind move the object, right? So being able to comprehend that understanding is what's futile to your super intelligence and your super consciousness, right? Being able to comprehend that, right? So these coordinates with these solar eclipses are very important to understand as well, because they correspond with different ages. They correspond with how geometrical relocation, right? Antarctica itself is the what I have proclaimed the promised land to us as black people, to rebuild the entire earth and to restructure the divine principles of the cosmos, right? The reason why is because the ozone layer, the hole that's in the ozone layer, which has infused global warming, the hole that's in the ozone layer, it hovers right over Antarctica, right? It's over Antarctica. This is and when our ancestors made symbols such as the moon outlining the sun, right? You have a crescent, the moon sitting in a crescent like it's a U shape like this, and then in the center of the moon you'll have the sun, So this is symbolic for the moon being under the sun, right? I'm sorry, this is symbolic for the sun being under the earth. If the sun ever shined at the bottom, and instead of making the C crescent and it made the U crescent like bull horns, that means that the sun that means that the earth is hovering over the sun, right? So that's important to understand, because if that's happening, then that means that there's sunlight that's being exposed. That means that there's land that's being exposed by pure sunlight through that hole that's in the ozone layer. So all the frozen isotopes or the carbon isotopes that's down in Antarctica is starting to the carbon isotopes that's down in Antarctica, they're starting to restructure. They're starting to melt Antarctica and restructure the land and the ground, the grass, the soil, the land, the floor of the ground. It's starting. There's those carbon chemicals, which since they are so stable, they're starting to release different types of activities that corresponds with the natural elements of the earth. And scientists have discovered this since the ozone layer, or since ozone depletion, which is why they don't want anyone in Antarctica. But Antarctica is very important because Antarctica also corresponds with the natural location of I forgot the name of the place, but Antarctica is the chosen place of prophecy because the moon itself, Antarctica is after all of the ice in Antarctica melts and it goes into the sea, that water is going to have to be relocated, and it's going to be geometrically relocated to Africa, right? And Africa itself is going to flood. Africa has never, there's never been a flooding, there's never been a hurricane or anything over there in Africa. But this new age, Africa itself is going to flood because that water is going to have to go somewhere, right? And once Africa flood, Antarctica is going to slowly be able to emerge. It's going to slowly emerge out of the ground, and that land is going to harvest a soil that's going to produce plants and things of that nature that are going to do wonders. Plants such as weed, it's going to work. It's going to have tetrahedron cannabinol atoms inside of it, or molecules inside of it, and it's going to release different types of chemicals that are going to instantly heal the body and heal people and things of that nature. But the moon itself has been pushed 30% closer. So when you stare at the sun, you're unlocking the chemical, you're enhancing the melatonin that's inside of the pineal gland. And once you're able to, a lot of people think that they're going blind because you develop a speck. It's kind of like a small little speck. Like I developed it. I'm looking at it right now, But there's a small little speck of a color. It's going to be a blue color, right? That's going to develop in the vision. This is because you have unlocked your chemical releasing. You have unlocked the optical isomers that's inside of the brain has now corresponded with the retina and the iris of the eye, and it also has strengthened the sclera, right? The sclera of the eye, which is the white of the eye. You see, you have the iris, the black, but you have the white of the eye, which is the sclera, right? So it strengthens the sclera, which strengthens the iris, which strengthens the retina and the cornea and things of that nature. The retina, which sits in the very back of the eye, behind the optical nerves. So it's all done through your eyes. Your eyes being able to pinpoint photons and taking those photons and directing them to your pineal gland, and your pineal gland releasing melatonin that attaches itself to rhodopsin, and rhodopsin, which like I gave the examples of the dark pieces of paper, rhodopsin, which corresponds with darkness. So as you stare at the sun is the only light that has the natural organic means to strength to lighten or send light or direct light to your which makes light. It is the only natural organic light which